You're most likely leaving a little bit of money on the table through sponsorship. Regardless if you have a sponsor or not, you're most likely not making enough through your podcast. And that's what this episode's going to be talking about.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
Hey, podcaster. In our very last episode with Netta Gorman, it was her second appearance on the show. She was talking about how she finally got her first sponsor. And one of the things that I mentioned in that episode is that I felt like she was leaving some money on the table. I noticed that she's leaving a little bit of money on the table. And so we want to talk a little bit about the CPM model and what is a better way than CPM. What's better than cost per meal, cost per thousand? What's better than that? And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode, is because I don't want you to leave any money on the table. I want you to be able to be making as much money as you want through your podcast. So let's talk a little bit about the CPM model first. What is it? How does it work? And by the way, don't take a whole bunch of notes being like, okay, I need to know this because I need to do this. Don't take notes because you think you're going to have to do the CPM model. Because in this episode, we're talking about what you could do instead of the CPM model. Do you recall with Netta Gorman on the last episode, she said something like, who do I want to have as a sponsor? Who do I prefer to have as a sponsor? Well, when she's doing the outreach to the sponsor, that allows her to have a higher amount of money per thousand than if the sponsor reaches out to you. So getting back to what is the CPM model, it means cost per meal. That basically means dollar per thousand downloads. Dollar amount per thousand downloads. Meal, again, I think must have some type of Latin root where I know that I have learned some Spanish, and meal there means 1,000 also. So cost per thousand is a model that has been created by sponsors and for sponsors, where it's person who wants to sponsor podcasts because they know they can get in front of a lot of people if they do sponsor a podcast. They have determined that they're going to mark it down. They have determined, please notate that cost per meal was not invented by a podcaster. Cost per meal was invented by a sponsor, an advertiser. And what do sponsors and advertisers want most in life? They want cheap exposure. When we're putting out like cards and sending out mailers through direct mail to people's homes, we might notice that each of these one postcards that we send, let's just call it 40 cents. Who knows what it is today? But I used to send a whole bunch of these, and I think that they used to be like 25 cents, but traditional stamp is like over 50 cents. So let's just pretend it's 40 cents. 40 cents per individual person. So if you, and I'm just going to grab my calculator and I'm just going to do this with you. So 0.4 times 1,000 people, it's 40 cents, is going to be $400 per 1,000. So if we are sending out direct mail to get in front of our perfect client, then it's going to cost us $400 per meal. $400 per meal. So what these advertisers, what these sponsors have done when they've created CPM model is they've knocked this down way below. They've basically said, if I do direct mail, just for the stamp, just for the freaking stamp, it's going to cost me $400 per meal. And I've got to pay a designer to create the postcard, and I've actually got to print the postcard. And do I want color for my postcard? Yes. Oh, costs more. Do I want the postcard to have anything on both sides? Yes, you're printing on both sides, costs more. So now we're looking at like a postcard campaign being at least $1,000 per meal. basically the CPM model for doing direct mail is going to cost you $1,000 per 1,000 people. It will be after printing the card front and back, designing the card, having a graphic designer put it together because you don't want it to look like shit, obviously. And so you get a graphic designer, you pay them a certain amount. And then furthermore, you have to pay for the stamps for the direct mail to get to the place. And now it's going to cost you $1,000 per 1,000 direct mail pieces that you're sending out. And so you're saying, that's too expensive. What can we do that's better? And then we're like, well, podcast industry is brand spanking new. How about we go to the podcasters and make them an offer that we will offer $5, $10, $20, or $30. These are the norms, 5, 10, 20, and 30. This is the normal amount. It can go up to 60 for cost per meal on a podcast. But because they want to have a good deal, they want to save money from direct mail campaign to get in front of that amount of people. And they feel like it's getting wasted because it's just getting thrown in the garbage. And you only get those people one time. If you use the CPM model, they get some other benefits because they put it on the podcast now. But for 10 whole effing years, people are downloading that same episode. For the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, they keep getting people downloading those episodes. So they're talking about, hey, we'll do CPM for the first 30 days. Well, how many downloads does it get in 30 days? This is what they've created. These advertisers have created, not the podcaster. A podcaster would never create this. A podcaster would never be okay with getting somebody in front of 1,000 people and only making 5, 10, 20, or 30 bucks. A podcaster is not good with that. A podcaster wants more than that. It's actually the advertiser who created the CPM model. So they're hoping to pull you down to make it the lowest. And what they're doing is they're reaching out to as many podcasters as they need to be able to get the amount of people to say yes. Because a lot of podcasters are like, hell no, I'm not doing that for $20 per 1,000. It's just a waste. I'm not going to get the value. Adam Adams, me, I would never, ever do it for $20 cost per meal. I just know the value of direct mail, of getting in front of my people, getting in front of the perfect people. When you do direct mail, you don't know for sure if the people that you're sending it to are into a certain thing. It's hard to get that. And if you do, it's going to cost more because you're going to have a bigger range of people in multiple different states. But what most people do is they send it to a neighborhood. And so we never even know if those people are into, we'll just bring back up Netta Gorman. Her podcast is Life After Sugar. The people that she gets in front of is a niche audience. It's not just a neighborhood of people where a lot of them are just going to rip up that postcard and not even look at it, not even pay attention to it, not care about it, definitely not take action on it. So the CPM model seems to be really highly in favor of the person who's reaching out to the podcaster and saying, please do this. And the podcaster says no. And they're like, no biggie. Let me ask another podcaster. Now they ask all the podcasters. None of them will do it for $5. Now they say, hey, let me double that. Let me go to $10 per meal. No one does it. So they move it up to $20 and they get a couple of bites. Now it becomes common knowledge. I need to do air quotes here with common knowledge. Now it becomes common knowledge that they can get their ads in front of a very niche audience for $20 per 1,000 instead of $1,000 per 1,000. So they start doing it. So let's go back to this thing that Netta Gorman said in our interview, on our most recent interview, which was the very last episode. She said, who do I want to have as a sponsor? And she said something like that was really liberating for her to be in control of that. Well, here's the thing. When you're in control of that and you're reaching out to somebody brand new that doesn't already do the CPM, that hasn't been brainwashed about, oh, it needs to be $20 or it needs to be $30, it needs to be $60 or $5 per meal. When you're the one reaching out to somebody who hasn't been brainwashed about this fictitious number that advertisers created, when you're the one, you can actually command a much higher dollar amount. So with Netta, it was very easy for her on her very first try to get whatever she was asking. She made an offer and it was automatically accepted. And to be honest, I would sponsor your podcast. I will sponsor your podcast. 90% of the podcasts out there, probably, as long as it's not crappy. Like, I would sponsor your podcast for $20 CPM easy, or $10 or $5 CPM, like, without even worrying about it or thinking about it. I'm ready to put that money because I'm already thinking about doing direct mail for $1,000 per thousand. And to get in front of your audience, if it's my same audience, for just $20, dude, I've got plenty of money to throw around for something like that. So if you're looking for a sponsor who only wants to pay you $5, $10, or $20 CPM, look, reach out to me. I'm here. That's just such a low number that it's a no-brainer, right? And you probably would sponsor your perfect niche for just $20. For $20, you can get in front of 1,000 people. For $80, let's say 20, 40, 60, 80. Let's say you got 1,000 per week, for example. Now that's around $80 in the whole month. If you just get one client, my clients are worth a lot to our company. If we just get one client, just one, we easily pay for that $80. So $80 is just an absolute no-brainer. It's just so low that I would never offer that to somebody else. But I would probably do it all day long, right? So Netta had a really easy time getting that client, in part because the offer is so compelling. If this company, if this doctor that she got, if they have advertised ever Facebook ads, and on Facebook ads, they would have spent at least $1,000 to get in front of the same amount of people. Now, there are impressions and there are clicks. So I'm talking more about the clicks. But if they did Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, they would have to spend at least $1,000 per thousand. If they did direct mail, they'd have to spend at least $1,000 per thousand. So on your podcast, whoever is listening right now, on your podcast, are you willing to do something that's a 50th smaller, a 50th what your podcast is really worth? I'm hoping that at the end of this episode, you say no. So what is the CPM model? In a nutshell, they are paying to be in front of your listeners. And if you have 500 people that download that one episode, and they're doing like 20 CPM, you're going to make $10 for that episode. That's the CPM model. That's how it was invented. That's who it was created by. That's why it's not in your favor, but it is in their favor. And that's why you need to be reaching out to your sponsors instead of having them reach out to you. Remember another piece to the advertising and sponsoring. With Netta on the very last episode, go and listen to it if you haven't listened to it yet. She talked about how she mentioned to her sponsor that there are three options. There's the beginning, there's the middle, and the end. And she said something to the effect of, the beginning and the middle are probably better because maybe people are dropping off. In fact, not only maybe are people dropping off, but typically people drop off at the end of many episodes. If they're going to drop off, they drop off before the halfway point. So all we're saying is it's true that the beginning is a higher prestige than the other two, and that the middle would be the middle, and at the end would be the lowest value for the sponsor. So here's what I want to say to you. And if you remember, if you go to growyourshow.com/templates, you can have all of our templates. So we're offering 2 templates today, and they're for free. Like, I'm actually paying currently while I'm recording this, my attorney's already creating this contract. So I might be spending like $1,000 or $2,000 on a contract, and I'm like giving it to you so you could just have it. Ned is giving me a couple of these, and so sending them to my attorney. He's creating them, and I'll pay for it, and then I'll give it to all of my listeners for free. Right? This is a lead magnet. It's a lead capture. I will spend thousands of bucks to make this done. so that all of my clients can have the resource. I can have the resource if I need it. And all of my listeners can have this resource. You can have this resource. You can go to our website, growyourshow.com/templates, and get all of the templates, including the sponsorship sheet that's more of an advertisement, and including the contract template that my attorney will have already ready before you hear this. So just go to growyourshow.com/templates. As part of all of this, one of those templates is the sponsorship sheet. And on there, there's 3 levels of sponsor. Okay. Please pay attention. There are 3 levels of sponsor, and they're all different costs. The cheapest version has the ad at the end of the podcast. The middle version has the podcast ad, has your sponsor's advertisement in the middle of your podcast. But the premium, the most expensive, is at the front. So here's another takeaway for you. Do not just say, where do you want me to put it? And have it a blanket price. Literally, the beginning of the podcast is the most expensive real estate. It is worse for your listener. It is worse for your listener and your relationship with your listener to have that ad in the beginning. So you cannot just offer to have this in the beginning. If you do, you're letting down your listener a little bit. Yes, absolutely, they're going to hear the ad, right? But they're also getting the ad before they get the value of anything, before they really even know what they're going to listen to, before they even know what they're going to get out of the episode. That listener is already getting an ad. So that needs to be premium prime real estate. That's going to cost more if they're going to be in the front of the podcast. They have to pay a huge premium if they want that placement. So the middle placement, the standard placement-ish, we'll call it standard or basic, whatever. That's the middle placement. That's beneficial for everybody. Everybody wins in the middle. And then at the end, the only people that win, if I can be so bold to claim this, is you and your listener. Your sponsor doesn't really win by having their ad at the very end. So that is cheap real estate. That is garbage real estate that you're going to charge for it. Absolutely. It's not going to be free, but it is going to be significantly lower than if they were going to do in the middle, and way lower than if they were going to be doing in the front. So just remember, don't offer, hey, where do you want it? Beginning, middle, or end? I'm flexible. I can put it wherever. Don't say that. Just let them know there's 3 tiers. And that's why you want our sponsorship sheet, where it's literally a sheet that is kind of like an advertisement for your podcast sponsor. It basically talks about how awesome your show is, who your show is for, who listens, how much they listen, and all that kind of stuff. And on there, it'll say something like $10,000 if you want to be in the beginning, $5,000 if you want to be in the middle, $1,000 if you want to be at the end, something like that. That's just an example. All right, so here we go. Another thing Netta said is she heard people say that you have to be sending dozens or even hundreds of requests just to get one sponsor. Well, with my clients, with me personally, and with Netta so far, they really only had to use one phone call. So just remember that. You just got to call one person one time, and they're probably going to sponsor you. This is a normal thing. It sounds insane to you right now because you just don't believe it because you haven't seen it. But once you see it, you'll believe it. So just know you don't have to call so many people. I loved that Netta had a 30-second ad. That was one of my favorite things that she mentioned in her episode. What I do with our clients is, you remember how we have those 3 tiers? I usually offer them different levels within the tiers. So like, for example, there's the premium, there's the basic, and then there's the premium, the standard, and the basic, for example. We'll just call it that. On one of them, on our most expensive, they could get a 45-second ad. On the middle, they could get a 30-second ad. And on the cheapest, they could get like a 15-second ad, for example. So I know this might sound confusing, so let me clear it up a little bit. We're talking about having 3 tiers and 3 total tiers and 3 levels underneath all of those, or 3 total levels and 3 tiers underneath all of them. So there's basically 9 options. They can basically find their Goldilocks number, right? So you can add that to be able to hone in exactly what you're getting. And then you can offer like more things to your top tier. You can offer less things for the bottom tier, less episodes. Here's a thing that did not get discussed. It's the contracts. So on the contracts that you're going to get when you go to growyourshow.com/templates, on the contract that my attorney is creating, we're going to focus on making sure that the contract is a 6-month or 12-month. You have the option, if you want, to bring it down to 90 days. You have the option even to bring it down to 1 month if you want to. I don't suggest it because it costs you so much money and time and effort just to lock up a sponsor that you want to have them for 6 months to 12 months. So on the contract that you'll get for free, going to that website that I already told you, on there, you'll notice that we only offer 6-month and 12-month terms on the contract. You can always change it. You want to give somebody 45 seconds instead of 30 seconds. You want to give somebody 30 seconds instead of 15 seconds. You can change it. You can add more money. You could do it for free. You could throw them a bone, whatever. But you want to have a contract term of 6 months or 12 months if possible. And make sure you're always aligned with your people, just like we talked about on that last episode. And the big takeaways from Netta Gorman's last episode was I probably would have done it sooner, before I got 100,000 downloads. So do you really need the numbers before you get a sponsor? The answer is no. Netta said, I thought I did, but the sponsor didn't think it was important. I thought that I needed the numbers, but she found out that the sponsor didn't really worry about that so much. And that's what I want you to understand is if you're outreaching to the sponsor and making this offer of $1,000 per CPM, for example, you might say, I'll give it to you for $6,000 for the next 6 months. And I will do the 30-second ad instead of the 15-second ad. Boom. You just literally got 1,000 CPM. Congratulations. The call to action for you today is to go out and if you want to monetize your podcast, do it today, because one of the big takeaways from Netta's thing is that you can do it. Bye for now. You're not alone if you're ready to either get your very first affordable microphone or if you're ready to upgrade your equipment to some legit podcasting studio equipment. Because on all of the forums over the last few months, I'm seeing this all the time. Even my own personal clients that work with my team, they're ready to get that next microphone. They're asking us for it. Additionally, when I'm on discovery calls with potential clients, they're always asking for this stuff. Hey, what mic do you recommend? Hey, what lighting do you recommend? What webcam should I be using? So many questions. And so what we did, my whole team has put together a PDF so that if you're one of those people who is looking to either get your very first affordable microphone, or if you're ready to upgrade your equipment to more professional podcast studio equipment, whether it's soundproofing or whatever, we've got you covered by going to growyourshow.com/PDF. And you can download the PDF for free, or right there on the webpage is everything that you would have and you don't need to download the PDF. Either way, just go to growyourshow.com/PDF, which will put you to the podcasting equipment that me and my team have personally vetted. I'll see you on the next episode.